Hello everyone and welcome back. Today let's go over exactly how to pull Halls of Valor Mythic Plus. The first pack you see here, you can actually run right through them, get to the second pack, interrupt the spellcaster, and combine these two pulls together. Now what this is going to do is save you some time, combine two easy pulls into one. By interrupting the spellcaster, you get to pick exactly where you place them. And just remember, if you get that debuff as a DPS or as a healer, run out of the range of the tank. Stunning the tank can be very detrimental. When you get the next pull, what you want to do is run into one of the casters, immediately interrupt it, and run and stand on top of the next caster in order to stack the whole pull together. Now once the boss is down, check for the patrol and avoid it. You can also mount up during this time, so run into the caster again, interrupt them, and run up the stairs. The reason you want to kill this pull up in the middle of the stairs is so that you don't pull that pet that was going around before. So you do see the mage pet here in the background. It unfortunately is going to pull the pat. I do miss it in the very beginning, but I do get back to it. You don't want to pull that pat, very unnecessary and not needed for your percentage for enemy forces. So one thing you will see repeated over and over again in Halls of Valor is to interrupt the spellcasters so you can get good group positioning. So with this next pull as well, you want to interrupt the spellcasters and get decent positioning. Now there will be some healing runes dropped on the ground. You do want to move them out of that as much as possible. Now the first pull on either side of this hallway should be pulled and LOS around this corner. If any of the patrols are available, you should pull them instead. Here you do see the two big patrols are available. You can actually be holding on to both of them at the exact same time, so you do see me go back here and pull the second one. One pull that you do want to avoid is the pull in the middle of this hallway. This pull is completely unnecessary and we'll actually bypass that later. So the first direction you do want to go in this hallway is to the right, just because you can mount up in this section and you're going to be using that along with the speed boost you get later on to maximize your speed. Now honestly, the best place I've found to melee, cleave, and tank these next pulls is in the middle of the table that they're in between, just because you have some casters on the left and on the right hand side. Now once you are done with this next group, you do not need to pull the group that's next to them. This group right here does not need to be pulled at all. You can actually hug the barrels and the wall and you won't be pulling that group at all. So go ahead and bypass that group, run through the portal, and immediately mount up. Once you mount up, you want to follow this path exactly so that you avoid all of the trash, and there's only one group that you need to pull before getting to the boss, and this group is right behind this tree. To get this pull, what you want to do is go ahead and get a few global cooldowns in on them, get some aggro, and actually run all the way to the boss. This group will chase you and you should hold threat on them perfectly fine, and the group should be able to DPS them down while they get to the boss. One last thing to note about the marksman: if you're doing a high level Mythic Plus dungeon, penetrating shot will hurt people a lot. So you want to make sure you face the marksman away from the group, and whenever piercing shot is being cast, make sure to sidestep it as well. Now once the boss goes down and runs away, these wargs that come up are actually very deadly in higher levels of Mythic, so you don't want to stack any of these pulls. So pull the first two, and then when you're done with that pull, go ahead and do the second pull, which is 3 wargs. Once you're done with that, go ahead and go back on the boss. And immediately after the boss goes down, you want to mount up and retrace your steps. What this means is you're going to go back across the bridge, you're actually going to go behind the tree because there is another mob you might be able to pull if you go around the other way. And right behind this tree, jump up behind these rocks and go through this middle area. You want to avoid the Drake to the left and go through the portal. Now, once you start going through the portal, do not run forward anymore. That is one of the biggest mistakes I see, because you will pull this group to the right. Once you run through the portal, remember, hug the wall and the kegs again, and you will bypass that group without pulling it. Again, here we are not going to pull the group in the middle. You're going to go ahead and run to the first group, which may or may not have 2 or 3 people, depending on where the patrol is, but regardless of where he is, you should pull this group. So here you do see that I do hug the patrol, I pick him up, and I actually run into the next group, because just that one patrol doesn't warrant a whole pull. Now what you want to do is keep working your way up the hallway, and actually this group over to my left does not need to be pulled if you CC this mob. However, if you do not have CC, you can pull this group and you won't lose too much time. So you do see here that I do decide to pull the group and actually DPS it down, just because our DPS is doing really good. This next group you need to be a little bit careful with. You don't want to stack these pulls too much, because these mobs will break your armor and make you take increased damage. Now in a high level mythic dungeon, this is going to matter, and this could be the difference between wiping and not wiping. With this next pull, you want to be careful. If you have a ranged DPS that can interrupt the top mob, that would be ideal, but if not, pick up the threat of all the bottom mobs, run up and start tanking them on top of the caster. Also note with these mobs again, they will break your armor, so you want to wait for that debuff to wear off before you do the next pull. With this next pull, you need to keep an eye on this middle person. They will start casting a shield of light that you need to sidestep. If you do not sidestep that shield of light, you will take a ton of damage, and in high level mythics, you'll actually be one shot. So make sure you keep an eye out and actually sidestep that. With these 2 mini bosses, you can actually pull them to the center and DPS them down there. Once the boss is summoned, you do want to drag the boss over to one side and get the special attack. Now after that special attack, you will get Shield of Light, so what you want to do is position yourself aiming towards the middle. So you do see here that right after that ability, I do position myself aiming towards the middle, and right before Shield of Light hits, I pop Magic Mitigation and I jump up in order to drag the boss across the room and enable the next set. So you see here the reason why we did the boss order that we did. I do get the speed boost. What you want to do is pick up the ale on the table and throw it at this middle group. As soon as that ale hits, you're gonna run through the gates, pick up both of these mobs, and run over to the next mini bosses. At this point, you should have completed all of your enemy forces, so it's just you against the clock at this point. We're going to use as much of the speed boost as we can use. This speed boost goes away as soon as one of the mini bosses is activated, so you will see here that I wait for my group, activate one of the mini bosses, and start tanking all 3 of them together. If this is a high level mythic, you can actually pop a few tanking cooldowns at this point to be able to survive all of this damage, but you should be able to knock out a few of these mini bosses while cleaving these big adds. This of course saves you some time by allowing you to just do a bunch of cleave damage. So you do see that we focus the mini boss first. We still have some of the other adds up, but I go ahead and activate the other mini boss as well in order to get more damage in. What I want to do here is minimize the amount of time we're going to be battling these mini bosses, just because after them we do have some RP. So again, as soon as the mini bosses go down, go ahead and activate more of them. And that's really it when it comes to pulls in Mythic plus Halls of Valor. After this, you get 2 bosses back to back. During the Odin fight, just make sure you interrupt the ad and get to your sigil, because that's going to increase your DPS by a lot. And also remember that during the cast of Ragnarok, when you do cast a shield as a tank, you still can use abilities without interrupting the channel. And that does it for all the tips for Halls of Valor. Now with 7.2 coming out tomorrow, I will also be continuing this series for Cathedral of the Eternal Night and Upper and Lower Karazhan. If you do like my content and enjoy my guides, you can go ahead and support the channel on Patreon. The link is down in the description, but it's just patreon.com/befuddled_gaming. Of course, any amount of support really means a lot, and I want to thank you all for supporting the channel. But if you would like to make some donations and get some rewards back as well, you can go ahead and visit that page. But as always, Good luck out there.